Hey, I guess you've probably heard by now Charlie Kirk is dead. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Charlie Kirk was killed at a rally or event that he typically did across college campuses in the United States, where he went in front of thousands of students and other people and would engage with students about their ideas and whatever it is that they wanted to speak with him about. It's frankly a terrible day for the United States. September 10th, 2025. Um, the guy was just 31 years old. And yes, he was a husband and a father of two beautiful little kids. And it's just horrible that anybody would think that it's okay in any way, shape, or form to take someone's life for speaking or even for having conservative values. I don't identify myself usually publicly about whether I'm left or right or center or anything. And I don't have to. I can, it doesn't matter what my beliefs are. It was plain as day that what the assassin did was wrong. Killing Charlie Kirk does not advance anyone's cause. It certainly doesn't advance democracy in the United States. It certainly doesn't advance free speech in the United States. This will have a chilling effect, as the expression goes. This will have a chilling effect on free speech. This will probably see fewer similar events. Like the days when political people openly engage with the public after he's been killed, and barely, just a little more than a year after Trump was shot in the ear or whatever, like grazed his ear. It's insane. Hello, hi God. It is insane to think that in the United States, the home of the brave, right, the land of the free, the home of the brave, the country of free speech, where it comes from, right, where it's like been established as a thing that the rest of the world in many ways has copied. Oh wow, everybody. It is crazy that Charlie Kirk was assassinated in the United States, doing what he loved to do, which was to speak with people. And it doesn't matter if you ever agreed with an opinion of his or not. You don't kill people because you don't like their opinions. That's not a thing. You don't target people for assassination because you don't like their opinions. Yeah, I live in a place where there's war all around me, and innocent people die all the bloody time. And it's just as tragic and just as awful because it is just as meaningful to the people that love them and then suddenly don't have them to love anymore. But the difference is when armies are fighting other armies or non-combatant or non-traditional armed groups, they're not fighting people just because of some words they've said. They're fighting people because of certain actions. And usually those actions involve a lot of force and or violence and or killing in the first place, as in the case where I am. America is quickly slipping down the path, a terrible path, where free speech and speech in general, because people always misunderstand what free speech is, right? Free speech is the right to criticize your government without fear of reprisal from the government. That's all it is. It's your right to criticize the government, especially in the public square, which, you know, what's more public than speaking out? Okay, technically he was on a university campus, arguably not public, private university, right? So, but out in the open, on a very, in a large open space surrounded by thousands and thousands of people, that's pretty public. Yeah, many of them were probably students there. It's still very public. It's a public, practically a public event, because pretty much anyone could show up. Even if they weren't university students, they could still get tickets or whatever. Expressing his opinions in a public square, literally sitting underneath a square tent, and shot for his opinions. You don't have to be a conservative to see why that's wrong. You don't have to be a liberal to see why that's wrong. You don't have to be a centrist to see why that's wrong. You just need to be a human being with a thinking brain. If America suddenly turns into a country where political activists have to fear for their lives just for speaking to crowds of people that want to hear what they have to say, I'm sorry to tell you, but something is very broken in the USA. Something's very broken in the US. It doesn't mean it can't be fixed. But there's a big problem under the hood. We still, as far as I know, we still don't even know who the shooter is. Right? Initially, they thought, the early reports were that they caught the guy, and then it was reported that they didn't catch the guy. As far as we know, they're still, they're still looking for the guy or girl or whoever did it. We don't know. My guess is probably some guy, but it's just a guess. I have no way of confirming that. Right. The shooter remains at large, as they say. So people at the university probably don't have much to fear in terms of like a secondary or tertiary attack by the same shooter, because obviously it was a targeted assassination, which means hopefully students there can get back to their university lives, which I'm sure will probably include some special events around this event. Whenever you go to a university and something terrible happens, just like any place, right, there's going to be knockoff effects that impact the day-to-day routine of what's going on there. So there'll probably be a few days of, who knows if they'll have classes or not. A man is dead because he was speaking, sharing his opinion, engaging with people, and he was going there to do what he normally does, which is to engage with people, especially those who don't agree with him on things, even people from his own political tendencies who have just different opinions about a topic or two or whatever. That's the whole point of political discourse, as opposed to political violence. When people say political violence can't be tolerated, yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Because otherwise you end up in a situation where you get fractional or factional violence, people fighting other people, people saying hello. And you end up with more than just a violent incidents. You end up with things that can trigger civil wars and other kinds of, bigger wars. But civil wars are, frankly, in a country like the United States, about as big as it gets. And we don't want that. Nobody should want a civil war. Nobody should want a war of any kind. If you want a war, there's something wrong with you. You are the problem. You need to seek help. The people that wanted a war near where I am effed around, and now they're finding out since almost 2 years. And they're paying a heavy price for it. We're also paying a price for it, but they're paying a much heavier one. Let's be clear. There are winners and there are losers in war. And you could say everyone's a loser in war. No one's a winner because it's a war. Yes. But there are, kinetically speaking, winners and losers. And you don't want that in the United States. You do not want to have wars in your country. Most people in the United States have no idea what it is to live like in a war zone or near a war zone. And may you never. Over the past, was it 13 years or so, since Charlie Kirk founded Turning Point USA, he was always a person who stood for what he believed, whether you liked him or not. And again, I'm not going to comment on what I think about the guy and his political views, because it's not the point of this video. Right? I might like a whole lot of his views. It might be that I a lot of his views. It might be that I liked all of his views or disliked all of his views. That's not the point of this video. He was ever increasingly more and more supportive of freedom and democracy in the United States and in other countries around the world, including right here in Israel. He stood up for what was right, despite the tidal wave, the endless sea, the increasing volume of hatred that people have for Israel, for defending itself against people who want war, people who don't believe in free speech, people who believe that it's okay and good to use violence, political violence, religious violence, whatever type of violence you want to call it, violence. He stood up for Israel, and he stood up for other places where free speech was on the line and democracy and freedom were on the line. But especially because obviously the topic of Israel in the past couple of years has been a big deal, especially among conservatives and in the United States in general, where for some reason there's a heavy emphasis on focusing on the topic of Israel and the Palestinians, yet we still have the conflict going on after 77 years because Israel is never allowed to actually win the wars that it wins kinetically every single time. But politically and diplomatically, Israel is never allowed to win because our freedom is held back by international powers. For everyone who says that Israel controls the world or whatever, if Israel controls the world, why hasn't Israel ever been allowed to actually win a war diplomatically and politically? Why hasn't Israel ever been allowed to accept the surrender of the enemies we're fighting? And people like Charlie Kirk understood that very well. He specifically understood that very well. The point is, a man was shot in Utah because the shooter just wanted to cut him down for the words he said. Charlie Kirk spoke words. Yeah, he did things. He ran events. He created a political movement. He helped Donald Trump, with his elections and other political related activities. But he wasn't like using force on people. What possible sick justification could a person have? By the way, now it's September 11th, 2025 over here. in Israel, and it is now 25 years to the day, 24 years to the day since September 11th, 2001. And yesterday was September 10th. September 10th, 24 years ago yesterday, yours truly was featured in the tech section of the New York Times, and Circuits, it was called. The Circuits section. Front page of the New York Times and front page of the Circuits, and big article in that section. That next day, when I was supposed to be calling all these companies, hey, have you seen us in the New York Times, this and that, let's do business. Because normally that's a thing that marketing people would do when their company is featured in a big article like that in the New York Times. September 11th was another day in which people who disagreed with America's values, freedom, democracy, free speech, freedom of religion, all these things that Charlie Kirk clearly stood for in his own way, September 11th saw thousands of people cut down because they were in a country that believes in those values. They were people who held those values themselves. Certainly, I don't know if every single one of them did, but obviously, by and large, the average American does have those values. And the thousands of Americans who died that day certainly had those values among them. And they were cut down by people who didn't believe in those values, using violence. And now America's flags are flying at half-mast for 3 days, which is an honor usually awarded to, like, presidents when they pass away. Charlie Kirk was certainly not a president. I know a lot of conservatives like to say he was a future president. He lived his life, and he was cut down. And it's terrible that it ended when he was so young. 31. 31, and he's gone. He was a real, I mean, it doesn't matter if you like the guy or not. It matters that in America we protect free speech and political dissent and political discourse. Political discourse. And that we reject political violence. Not just in the United States, in all free countries. You know, there are those who believe it's okay for America to allow itself to be undermined by people using loopholes to destroy it from the inside. I think it's okay to change the laws to prevent that from happening. I don't think you should be allowed to undermine a country that enshrines your freedom, gives you rights that you are an equal person and have the right to believe what you want to believe and do what you want to do, as long as you're not a violent criminal. As long as you're not a criminal. As long as you follow the law, you have these amazing rights in the United States. And as a result, by extension, throughout many countries around the world that have since adopted many American values as their own. When the United States was founded and established many of those rights were not afforded to a lot of people, most people around the world. I mean, it's just a fact. And in the 200 and almost 50 years now, since the United States has been established as an independent country, many countries have adopted basically America's values as their own, and they've enshrined them in their own constitutions. Sure, plenty of countries still aren't free, but there are a lot more free countries now than there were before, and that's for the better. And it's the countries that are not free that are the most likely to resist the countries that are free. It's the countries that are not free that are spawning the minions of evil that are going to the United States and going to other countries like the UK and France and Germany, etc. And there, because they were so repressed in their own countries, they're using the loopholes of the very countries that give them their freedom in order to undermine those free countries. Holly Ann, your question, is it just you or is it crazy that he was literally answering a question about mass shootings and trans shootings and he did not even get to finish before he was shot? I would really be asking that guy. To be honest, I'm not even sure what I can't confirm that that's the question. Do you know that for a fact that that's the question he was answering? The video is just so horrific. Don't watch it if you haven't seen it. Honestly, well, I'm not going to tell you what to watch or not watch. I don't recommend you watch it. It's the kind of video that if you're not used to that kind of violence, like in real life, this isn't a video game. This is a real human being whose life was ended terribly. For speaking. He wasn't telling people go and kill the enemy or something crazy. He wasn't like inciting people to do violence. He was always very calm and cool and collected, respectful of whoever he was speaking with. Again, it doesn't matter if I ever agreed with him about a single opinion or not. He was a human being. If you can't recognize that killing him is wrong, something's wrong with you. That's to whoever thinks any kind of justification about assassinating somebody like him. He wasn't the leader of some terrorist organization. He wasn't the leader of some evil, some evil government doing horrible things, plotting to destroy the world or conquer all of it and force it to believe to a certain faith. It's not what he was. That's not what he was doing. It's not who he was. He was just a guy talking about what he believed in. And yeah, he founded a very successful politically active group that had a big influence on the United States in the last election and, over the last few elections, really. Yeah, I don't know. The only part I saw, Holly Ann, the only part I saw of the video was the horrible part, like 2 seconds before and told, yeah, I didn't see the part where he was just talking. And like I saw that one clip of him getting shot and like I didn't intend to even see it. It just came up in social media or a news website or something like that. I just as soon as I saw that, I just I don't need to see that again. Thanks. I've seen it. I've seen people die in front of me in real life. I don't need to see that. But I saw that video and it's horrible. If you've ever seen something like when Kennedy was shot or anything like that, it's just as awful. It's a human being whose life is being ended because of his political beliefs, which were not violent. No, you're completely fine to respond, Holly Ann. Of course, it's upsetting. I get it. I hope this stream is cathartic for people who happen to watch it in some way. Maybe it is. Maybe, that's probably why I'm doing it. It's I mean, I also just have strong opinions about it because Charlie Kirk was somebody who really gave a damn about the country that I happen to live in, right? Where I happen to be right now. And he will be missed. I can tell you that much by not just the millions of people in the United States who thought highly of him, um, including President Trump, obviously, but you know, he's got condolences from President Biden and congressmen and congresswomen all over the place. And of course, millions of people who looked up to him for what he was doing with Turning Point USA and all of his, different groups and events. But even in other countries, like here in Israel, I can tell you a lot of people thought highly of the guy because he had morals and principles and he stood up for Israel when the rest of the world, or much of the rest of the world, was attacking us for defending ourselves against the same kind of maniacs that would kill us because we believe in something different than they believe in. We don't believe in killing everybody and forcing everybody to be a certain religion. We had shared values with Charlie Kirk. Yeah, he's Christian, and most of us here in this country are Jewish. But that doesn't mean, first of all, there's plenty of Christians here too, by the way. It's the only country in the Middle East where the Christians are actually growing in number, in case you didn't know that, sadly. Um, Lebanon, Egypt, which used to be Christian countries, no longer Christian countries, obviously, since many years. What hurts is he inspired both parties to vote, so it seems yeah, it's of course he inspired people to vote, whether they were left, right, or center, it doesn't matter. It's just terrible that a young man who was literally just participating in the marketplace of ideas was gunned down for participating in the marketplace of ideas while participating in the marketplace of ideas. And now his family have to grow up, have to live the rest of their lives without him, who I'm sure they loved very much. And I'm sure his wife will miss him immensely. And I'm sure his kids will miss the fact that their dad is gone. No more daddy. He's gone. Now all they have is a whole lot of video footage and photos on top of the small amount of memories that people have from that age. Once they grow up, they tend to lose a lot of those memories. Even if they record themselves now, or if their parents record them now and their feelings and everything else, which is practically impossible, I'm sure, for any grieving widow to do, when all she wants to do is hug her kids and have her husband back. You have to find out, but your stepdaughter or by your stepdaughter coming into the living room and telling you because she saw it. So TikTok. Yeah, I didn't see it on TikTok. I don't watch TikTok. But it was obviously all over, the world news and other social media platforms. To be honest, I could have seen him as a future. Yeah, a lot of people say he could have been a future president. Who knows? It's really moot though. Doesn't matter, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't matter. We'll never find out. And I say unfortunate again without saying whether or not I agree or disagree with the guy, because that's not the point of this. But I say unfortunate because America is a land of opportunity. And there's a man who was working very hard to improve his situation based on the opportunity he was given from the fact that he was born in the United States. And he's a proud American, sharing American values with as many people as he could, share what he believed were his conservative American values with as many people as he could. Hi to people saying hi. Just because he brought the country together in the spirit of debate. Yeah, I mean, look, debate has long been a culture in the United States. I personally think the style of what people call debate in the United States to me is not debate. I'm much more in the Oxford School, or what used to be the Oxford School style of debate. Even they, frankly, have lost their way in many ways. But yeah, Americans have, I mean, in his case, very rarely shouting matches because he was able to keep it decent. But very often, American debates are reduced to sound bites. Like, what's good for the 30-second TV clip? In his case, though, you're right that he did engage people at length in much more of a style of debate, but it wasn't. If you've ever studied debate and how to actually debate properly, you know that that's not a debate. It's a discussion. But it doesn't matter if it's a debate or a discussion. It matters that he was speaking freely, exchanging ideas, having. What's the point of free speech if there's a cost at the end? Okay, so free speech isn't free. It does actually cost. It does cost lives many times, unfortunately. And what is free speech? Again, free speech is not the right to speak among citizens, among yourselves, and have the debate. That's not free speech. That's just people speaking. Free speech is a very specific term. If you don't know it, I want you to look it up. Google, what is free speech? Google, go to a dictionary definition of it. Okay, go to a proper dictionary definition of it. You'll see. Free speech is the right, or even just read what is free speech. Read the First Amendment. That's the best way to air your public grievances against the government without any fear of reprisal from the government. So you can go out in the public square and say, I think the government sucks because they have done these terrible things, and I wish they would change them. And I would like to lead a change in that capacity and not have any fear of reprisal from the government. That's what free speech is. When people are just engaging in political discussion, that's not free speech. That's just speech. And people have a right to that too. Why? Because everybody who can speak speaks. It's an inherent right of human beings that doesn't even need to be stated, that we have the right to speak. That's an inalienable right that doesn't even need to be defined. That's like saying we have the right to breathe. The right to breathe? You have the right to breathe. Do you have the right to drinking water? You actually do have the right to drinking water. It's a human right. But speaking is part of being alive if you have the ability to speak. Everyone who can speak at some point speaks. And being shot for just speaking in public and sharing political ideas is just insane. It is absolutely absurd that somebody, just because he happens to have conservative ideas, would be shot. For what? How does that advance the cause of even the shooter's mind? If the shooter imagined that Charlie Kirk is the cause of all the problems in America, how does killing Charlie Kirk solve that problem? It literally doesn't. Whoever shot him clearly had something not working right in the brain. I'm guessing because we don't know who the shooter is. But there is a video going around that shows a body on the roof of the building where the suspect is alleged to have been. Before the shot, like there's somebody laying down, very much like in Butler, Pennsylvania. And then after the shot, seen running across, in a different video, seen running across that rooftop. Some body. We don't know if it's the same or not. We don't know. Anyway, there's been a lot of great coverage, I'm sure, by people who knew him personally, and people who have obviously a significant audience, and obviously they'll have very popular streams and videos about it. I'm sure you'll see them. Probably be somebody young again, a student maybe. We have no idea, Grease Monkey. We have no idea who shot him. We don't know. The suspect is still at large. Again, I wouldn't be too worried if I was in that area that suspect is going to go on a shooting spree or something. No, he or she clearly wanted to assassinate Charlie Kirk. That was obviously he was the target. It was a highly targeted assassination. Whoever the suspect is, may they be caught. May the actual shooter be caught soon and brought to justice. And certainly I wish the family of Charlie Kirk my condolences and my sympathies. May they never know. May they know no sorrow, no more sorrow. B'dayana emet, as we say in Hebrew. Just stumbled into the stream. What up, everyone? Rogue, I was just talking about Charlie Kirk and the fact that he was cut down in the beginning of his prime, really, just 31 years old. He was growing into his own and had just reached a cadence and pace and stride in life where he was really starting to pick up. Who knows what he would have done in the next 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years? Who knows? Is that he will no longer be able to father his children or husband his wife. What we do know is he will no longer be able to be at rallies and at college campuses talking about the issues that matter to him. Another one I don't think will ever get the full truth. Yeah, he was a young man. Who knows if we'll get the full truth or not? I certainly hope we do. It's pretty obvious that he was killed because of his beliefs, because of his activity as a human being, talking about his beliefs, because of his encouragement to people, to engage in the political system. And also because he was, actively encouraging, especially young people, to look inward and discuss things like faith and discover their own faith or religion or whatever you want to call it, spirituality. And he was a proud Christian. And he cared a lot to see that Americans would not lose their way religiously, and that America would remain largely a country with free speech and free religion, but where the majority of the country would obviously remain basically a Christian country, because why shouldn't it? It's a country that was founded by Christians, even though it was not founded on religion, yeah. But it was founded by a lot of religious people, and by the way, a lot of atheists too. I mean, it seems like somebody going out into the town square and saying the favorite crayon is pink and getting hurt. That is so crazy to me. Yeah, no, it is absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane that anybody would justify in any way taking the life of basically a regular guy who just was exercising his rights and participating in American democracy. Anyway, if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to ask. I have a lot more to say about this, but I certainly want to answer any questions if you guys have any for me. And if you don't, that's fine too. This is a dark day. It's the 24th anniversary of September 11th, 2001, when the Twin Towers fell and when the Pentagon was attacked as well, partly destroyed. And about 3,000 people lost their lives. And not far from here, people were celebrating that awful, awful act. You know, just the other day, 2 days ago, Israel targeted the political leadership of Hamas in Qatar. But unlike the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the political leaders of Hamas were not innocent people. They were people who literally planned and carried out October 7th and many, many, many other heinous acts over decades. And on October 7th, they were praying, thanking Allah for the glory of October 7th, of all the killing of the innocent people. We're in the same location that they were doing that in when they got cut down 2 days ago. Yes, I have a cough. a bit of a late summer cough I have here. So for anybody who's going to compare cutting down the leaders of Hamas after the many years of horrible things that they've done and the corruption and stealing billions of dollars from their own people, basically living scot-free with impunity in a host nation that was funding them to live the high life while their own people suffered and while they plotted attacks against Israelis and Jews around the world. There's no comparison. Those people were violent terrorists, even the political leadership. How do you think they got to be in the political leadership? They weren't born into it. They had to earn their way into it, which means that they had to do violent and horrible things. Khaled Mashal was not the political leader of Hamas always. Right? He had to earn his way there. And from their point of view, that meant doing violence, which they call resistance. But let's be honest, it's brutal terrorism. That's what Khaled Mashal did, and then became a spokesman, a political chief for Hamas after he left the area. So those people, you know, they as individuals don't get sympathy from me in that they did evil, a lot of it, and they had what was coming to them. They were not exercising free speech. They were not defending freedom. They were not defending freedom of religion, freedom of beliefs. They were not defending democracy. They were not defending equal opportunity. They were not defending women's rights or gay rights or anybody else's rights. They were attacking all of those things. That was their mission, to conquer the world and force it to submit to their way of believing things by force, and to kill everyone else who doesn't submit to their way, or to make them, or to humiliate them and make them pay a certain tax. But as far as the Jews go, no, they all have to die. As far as Israelis go, no, they all have to die. As far as Hamas is concerned, and they will tell you, no, we have no problem with Jews, just Zionists. What is the difference when 97% of Jews say that they're Zionists? Because it's part of being a Jew to believe that you have rights to self-determination in your ancestral home. By the way, if you believe that about any place, you're a Zionist. If you believe that you have the right to self-determination in your own homeland, you are a Zionist of your own personal Zion, or your own country's Zion, your own country's place, your own ethnicity's place, your own people's place. So these guys in Hamas were nothing like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, and you can say, well, they were both conservative. No, Hamas is not conservative. Extremist crackpot nut jobs. Charlie Kirk was religious. That doesn't make him conservative like Hamas insane people. You can't compare these things. They're not. I mean, yeah, you want to compare them. Yeah, one's black, one's white. One's up, one's down. They're not comparable. They're not the same. Charlie Kirk was, he was a great young man. And it's awful to see people at any age being assassinated when they're just literally spreading a message or messages in a harmless way. You want to argue with me and tell me, no, he said this thing or that thing and it harmed people? How did anything he ever did actually harm people? Please show me. Please show me. Please show me. Demonstrate the evidence if that is your claim. He was just a person involved in the political arena in America, engaging in the marketplace of ideas, and killed while in doing so. He might have said facts that you did not like, but he did not send a Melissa after anyone. I don't know what a Melissa is. You mean a militia? Yeah, he might have said facts that you... Exactly, Hollyann. He might have said things you'd like or don't like, but he never sent violence after anyone. He never told people to go be violent. He was always respectful of even the most crazed people that would come up and argue with him. Yeah, militia. I figured the automatic spell checker probably messed around with your word there and changed militia to Melissa, which, by the way, is a great song by the Allman Brothers Band. Yeah, Charlie Kirk was not an extremist, and I know a lot of people left of center like to say he was an extremist. I'm sorry, he just wasn't. If you think that's an extremist, you don't know what an extremist is. Extremists are members of Hamas. Extremists are people who actively, like active KKK members who want to, hurt or kill all the black people in America. Extremists are Nazis and like literal neo-Nazis who actively attack people who aren't also what they consider to be Aryan or whatever. Extremists are, jihadis from Al-Qaeda and Islamic State and you name it, from all over the damn place. The Taliban. Those are extremists. They will use violence against you because of an extreme viewpoint that they have. Charlie Kirk was none of those things. Not even in the same universe of those ideas. Like, it's crazy. What do I think Charlie Kirk was? I think Charlie Kirk was a human being who was sharing his ideas. It doesn't matter if you like those ideas or not. No, I'm not comparing them. I'm not saying that Charlie Kirk is an extremist. He was not an extremist. And it doesn't matter if I liked his opinions or not, or if I liked some of his opinions or didn't like some of his opinions. It's completely irrelevant. He was engaging in the marketplace of ideas. I engage in the marketplace of ideas all the time. That's what our free economies and political lives and political institutions and countries in the West are built on. Right here in Israel, we built our country thanks to the freedom of the marketplace of ideas that we have here. We enshrine it as a very high value here. Freedom of speech is very important here. We don't have a constitution in Israel, but we have what we call basic laws. And the right for Israelis to express themselves is very, very important to Israeli people, just like it is in America. Did I agree with him for the... Again, I don't want to get into did I agree with him or did I not agree with him. Maybe I'll do that in some other video. Because this isn't about that. This is about remembering what matters. An innocent man was murdered in public for sharing his ideas in the marketplace of ideas. It's a terrible day for the United States. People need to take stock of that and really think, especially those who are the crazies. Unfortunately, they're not going to be the ones probably watching this video ever. But they need to rethink, what the hell are they doing? What got you is that he trusted people enough to have an open debate or discussion without any kind of protection because that's what he thought the spirit of the United States was. Yeah, absolutely. He was all for open debates. Listen, you take a risk anytime you're a speaker in public. It's part of the deal. You take a risk that there's going to be some crackpot who's going to try to do something. But you also have faith or, believe or think or calculate that it's not going to happen to you. That's why people take the risk. At least we know that he's with Jesus. I mean, again, I don't want to get into religion or anything like that, right? I'm sure he's with God. He was a believing man. He was a believing Christian. It's horrible. What happened to him is horrible. And I wish nothing but good things for his family, despite all this awfulness that's happening. I wish them sympathies and condolences. They have my heartfelt sympathies, truly. Especially, his parents, his wife, his two little kids who now are going to grow up without daddy. And for what? For living the values that he surely was trying to instill in them, even despite their very, very young age. Now they have to learn about him through what their mother, what their mother tells them about him, what their family tells them about him, what their family's friends tell them about him, those that knew him. Probably videos they'll watch, articles and books they'll read about him, podcasts they might hear about him, in addition to the few memories that they might be able to hang on to later in life. Because again, people at that age tend to lose those memories very quickly. When you're tiny, when you're a little toddler, usually by the time you're a teenager, you've forgotten most of them. And by the time you're a full-grown adult, it's practically impossible to remember your actual thoughts and feelings on any given day. And even if you try to record a toddler's thoughts and feelings, it's very hard to necessarily get them all out. You can make a best effort at it. It might be good for someone in the family, friend of the family, to try to do that. But this is not the time for that. It's the time for his family to mourn and grieve and do whatever they need to do to get through these awful, awful times. How long are we going to let domestic terrorists get away with this in our country, whether anyone agreed with him or not? We're all human, and he did not deserve this. His kids or his wife did not deserve it. You're right, William. You're right. No one deserves this. No innocent person deserves to be assassinated. The only people that you can justify that kind of action against are like the people that Israel targeted 2 days ago in Qatar. The leaders of Hamas, the terrorist organization. Those kind of people arguably deserve to leave this mortal coil through action. Why not? We take out people much lower level than them. It's a war. If you're leading a war, you are a target. They certainly would kill our leader if they could here in Israel. There's a message held for review. Should I click on it? As far as discussions go, yes, Hollyann, what is it? Well, those little girls can take comfort that their dad helped American politics. Yeah, Hollyann, absolutely. He did help American politics. Again, it doesn't matter if I agreed with him or not. You have to be able to recognize that that guy contributed to American politics. He made American politics better in many ways by just engaging with more people and having more people be engaged with the political process. You have to recognize that. Sorry, I keep looking at different clocks and things and messages that keep popping up on different screens because I have some incoming that I have to deal with. Yeah, his little girls, his daughter, were they both daughters? I don't know. He had 2 kids, right? I thought one, I don't know. I'm not, it doesn't matter. He had kids, little kids. He was a dad. Their dad is gone. For what? For participating in the marketplace of ideas. It's just insane. Agreement is not the point. I'm happy you stated that. It's about standing up for what you believe. He offered the exact same. Yeah, 100%, William. 100%, man. It's about yeah, he stood up for what he believed in. And he was respectful with whoever engaged with him in a debate. I've never seen the guy yell or curse at people he was debating with, ever. Which is not something I can say for a lot of people, most people who engage in that kind of discourse. At some point, most people can get pretty salty. And I say that because I think it's a good thing to be able to contain yourself. And I know people don't care about F-bombs and all this kind of stuff these days. It's like, you know, listen, the president talks like that, so why should anybody else care? There's still a reason to care. There's still a reason to be civilized, to be polite, as much as possible. Yes, if you, in certain contexts, in certain different situations, I understand context matter, individuals matter, locations matter, all these different things matter. I get it. But to be able to hold yourself above the fray your entire career, as he did, brief as it was, 13 years, was certainly long enough for him to have broken that and be very not nice at times had he wanted to be. I honestly have never, it doesn't, and again, it doesn't matter if I agree with him or not. I never saw him harangue people in a disrespectful way. Ever. Which is probably one of the reasons I find that this is not just so shocking, but I also think that he was a great person in American politics, a great young man in American politics who had a bright future and did as much with his life as he could, it seems. You know, we don't know what the future actually would have held beyond yesterday, for him? We don't know. But we know that until yesterday, when he was still alive, he did what he could, from what it seemed to be, to advance his interests in a peaceful and polite and democratic way. What more could you expect from an American? Or anybody, frankly. It's just absolutely terrible what happened. And again, I know different conservatives and liberals have already gone on and made comments about it, and I've seen an insane number, like within the 15 minutes of the news getting out. I mean, it was instant, I'm sure. I didn't look at it for 15 minutes. Within the 15 minutes after he was shot, there were already people justifying it. By the way, people on the left and people on the right, I saw justifying it. And even some centrists. Yeah, it was all across the board. It wasn't like only leftists were justifying it. No. And when inevitably the right wing and the left wing play their political part in this, and they always will, and they always do, and they will probably never stop that until something changes. Of course, there are going to be some crazies who say, oh yeah, say, oh look, they all said it was justified. No, most people at the right did not justify when Nancy Pelosi's husband got attacked, but some people in each camp did, and that was exploited by their political opposition, and it demonstrated the hypocrisy of both sides and the disgustingness of both sides that are extremists. The extremists are disgusting because they justify it. The hypocrites are those who say, look, they all do it. No, they don't all do it. Most Americans do not approve of assassinating innocent people. He was the Martin Luther King of our time. He stood up for peaceful debates and changes. Violence took him. It's not right. Martin Luther King, if you mean Martin Luther King Jr., was not like Charlie Kirk. What I mean by that is they were not fighting the same fight, okay? Martin Luther King Jr. was leading a fight for civil rights, which he and his fellow blacks in America did not have the privilege of having. Charlie Kirk was not underprivileged. He was not leading a fight for underprivileged people. Let's not pretend that he was MLK Jr. But was he standing up for peaceful debates and changes? Yes, 100%. Did violence take him? Yes. Was it wrong? Yeah, absolutely. You can make those parallels, but he was not MLK Jr. He was not leading some civil rights movement to get equal rights for his demographic. He just wasn't. He was standing up for American values that he held near and dear to his heart, which, by the way, includes civil rights. I've never heard him speak against minorities because they were minorities. I never heard him say they shouldn't have equal rights about anyone. So he wasn't a revolutionary leader like Martin Luther King Jr., who literally led a civil disobedience revolution in America that cost him his life because he wanted more people to have the same freedoms that the rest of America had. There's no comparison. But there is a comparison in that they both were politically active. They both were engaging in peaceful debates and changes. They both were shot and cut down in their prime. You can say that. Absolutely. They also had a lot of other differences, but I won't get into that. Would I say they were both, on the whole, did they both appear to be great people? Yeah, they both appeared to be great people. Nobody's perfect. Martin Luther King Jr. was certainly not perfect. Nobody is perfect. But that doesn't justify any reason for them to be cut down in their prime for speaking and engaging in the marketplace of ideas. But yeah, William, I mean, you make a good point, but I just wouldn't make that direct comparison about what their activism was about. They had very different purposes with their activism. Martin Luther King Jr. was, like I said, trying to get equal rights for, a significant chunk, yes, a minority, but a significant minority in the United States. And Charlie Kirk was trying to activate more people to engage in the political process. And obviously he was more in favor of people becoming, or activating their conservative views. Yeah, I mean, there's a parallel in their engagements with the political process. There's a parallel in the fact that they both got cut down. There's a parallel in that they both wanted people to engage and be active, but beyond that, what they were fighting for was very different. Again, like I said, Martin Luther King Jr. was leading the charge on that and made huge strides. And shortly after his death, the changes that were necessary were made. But they were both in the marketplace of ideas, and they were both gunned down because of that. You can make that argument. Anyway, folks, I have to get going. Thank you again for being here. If you found this live stream at all interesting or whatever, if you want to follow, like, share, follow, and I'm on YouTube, subscribe. Please do, so that maybe I can reach more people. I've been doing this many days and nights of my life across different channels, including this one, my personal channel. So it'd be nice to see this channel grow a little bit. But more importantly, I wish you all well. I wish you all peace. I wish you all safety and happiness, health and prosperity. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. All right, folks. Take care.